Dr. Jane Goodall, Dame of the British Empire, Conservationist, UN Messenger of Peace. Welcome to the JSO interview.
Well, thank you, John.
Perhaps you could indulge us with a greeting in chimpanzees.
Yeah, this would be a greeting to everyone listening because it's a distance call. But this is me, who's out there.
Thank you very much.
It would be very different if I was greeting you close up. It's
much more intimate.
Much more intimate.
Indeed, indeed. Now, when I talk to people about this encounter today, they said, John, you're so lucky, you're going to talk to one of the greatest living human beings. That was one grouping. And the other said, who on earth is she? Now, how do you respond to this sort of polarity of responses?
Well, I think, you know, the people who read National Geographic and watch documentaries, and many who've been through school learning about the environment, they know who I am. All of them, all over the world.
But this sort of hubris, do you sort of feel that people, do you know who I am? Do you walk into a room and feel that people ought to respond to you as some sort of deity?
Of course I don't. No, absolutely. I'm just me. The point is I've remained just me. And what people choose to think of me is what they choose to think of me or what other people have built up. And then, you know, the people who don't know who I am, well, really, why should they if they haven't been exposed to some of the things that have made me famous among the other group?
Is it too much to ask you to talk about those fame-inducing things in about 1 second?
Well, those fame-inducing things, you know, they really were my first husband, who was an amazing cinematographer, and it was his pictures, his film, that the National Geographic spread throughout households around the world.
And indeed, you are the person who shortened the divide between the great apes, chimpanzees, gorillas, gibbons, orangutans, and human beings, with this 1% difference in DNA. Apparently a chimpanzee could give me a blood transfusion and I'd be just fine. Our closest living animal relatives, you did it for chimpanzees. Is that a correct sort of resume?
Well, sort of. It's just that when I got to Cambridge University, because when I began I had no degree of any sort, nothing. I'd not been to college. And Louis Leakey, my mentor, told me I had to go and get a degree, and there wasn't time for a BA, I had to go for a PhD. And all the professors told me I'd done my study wrong. I'd been out there a year. I couldn't talk about chimpanzees having personalities or minds, certainly not emotions. Those were unique to us. And I should have numbered them and not named them.
Right.
And fortunately, through my childhood, I had a teacher who told me that was wrong. And that was my dog. So I knew this before I even started. And then the fact that chimpanzees are biologically so like us in their brain, their behavior, that meant I was able to get this across to other scientists and begin to break down this idea of a sharp line with us on the one side and all the other animals on the other.
Might that be the reason why you are holding Mr. H, another creature of myth?
Mr. H was given to me by someone who thought he was giving me a stuffed chimpanzee because he was blind.
Right.
And I made him hold the tail. And
right.
I carry him.
Of course, chimpanzees don't have tails.
No, chimpanzees don't have tails.
Right.
And I carry him because he epitomizes the indomitable human spirit. This man has climbed Kilimanjaro, he does skydiving, and he said he'd be a conjurer, told it was impossible. Children don't know he's blind, and then he'll tell them and say, things may go wrong in your life, we never know, but if they do, don't give up. There's always a way forward.
It's intriguing that you should talk about the indomitability of the human spirit, because this is one of your reasons for hope for mankind. And going back to your own life, this idea that you had this extraordinary support from your mother.
Yes.
Your mother, who basically let you do what you wanted, to get into bed with worms, go and find out how chickens lay eggs. This encouraging the spirit of curiosity. And you have great faith in young people in this highly competitive world. Has it ever exercised your mind that what you had from Mum could never be replicated in today's world?
I think it can be replicated, and it must be. And you know, the basic thing is that when I wanted to go to Africa age 10 to live with animals and write books about them, everybody laughed. How could I do that? I was a girl.
I'm trying to suggest that nowadays you either have to get good grades or you're lost in the world. Grades mean everything. So the opportunity that you had to follow your dream, to go off and study, would never be presented. The idea of apprenticeship, because you were an apprentice who became an authority.
Yeah, but I don't agree, because I think, you know, think of all these people who are dropouts of school and go on to found, you know, huge, like Bill Gates. Wasn't Bill Gates a dropout from school? I think so. And so there still is a chance, and our program for youth, Roots and Shoots, is all about, you know, just realize that every single day you live, you make an impact on the world, and you have a choice as to what kind of impact. And, you know, every single day,
right,
we choose how to behave, and we can make a difference, and people do. In other words, we empower them.
An association of ideas for me, you've talked of one program, and I don't know, perhaps this is the moment to talk about GRASP as yet another program in which you're involved.
Yes, well, obviously GRASP, you know, the Great Ape Partnership, it's terribly important, because when I began my work, the forest stretched right across Africa. And there were chimpanzees and gorillas all the way in a great unbroken forest belt. And now that belt is reduced, and it's little fragmented patches. Chimpanzee numbers dropped from about 2 million down to max 300,000, spread over 21 nations. And so it's desperately important that we get together. And that's what GRASP is all about, bringing together those people who can help to conserve our closest living relatives. What are our kids going to say in 100 years if the apes are just represented by a few small, sad groups in zoos, or even gone altogether?
How do you respond to the people? Again, one of your pillars is the human brain. The human brain gives us reason for hope. But the human brain is responsible for progress. And I'm saying maybe that there are those who feel that culturally you're coming from a place where this is a pet, it's a toy. And in another culture, it's just food. Now, who are you to impose that in a culture in the West that isn't destroyed all its animals and they're only to be found in zoos?
Well, not quite, but the point is,
well, I'm making an extreme
yes,
point.
I know you are. So anyway, it's all about education, it's about understanding, it's about, you can't tell people don't go out and eat wild animals if they have nothing else to eat.
And so, if they find them nutritious and good tasting.
Yeah, but there are other alternatives.
Right.
And so the point is that if you destroy everything out there with the growing population, there's going to be nothing left. But you know, we talk about the brain, and you know, the human brain is beginning to find ways of living in greater harmony with nature. And I think what's gone wrong with us today, with our mechanized society, our materialistic, greedy culture, is that we are separating the brain from love and compassion, the human heart. And I think only when the brain and the heart work in harmony can we have the sort of world that we will not be ashamed to leave to our great-grandchildren.
So which of these creatures with which we could live in harmony are we going to choose? I see a sort of image of having a very sort of bright child who's going to get straight A's and go off to do neuroscience, and maybe the chimpanzees might be that kind of animal. But in essence, the human brain is systematically destroying many other species, many other animals. It might be romantic to point to chimpanzees because they're very clever, but what about everything else that we're destroying?
Well, this is the point. Chimpanzees are they catch people's imagination. But it's no point just saving chimpanzees. We're learning more and more about the interconnectedness of all life within an ecosystem. And, you know, the horrifying thing is the rate at which we're destroying these components of rich, varied ecosystems. Chimps can be flagship species, and by saving them, we can only save them by saving the forest. And when we save the forest, we try to save everything in it.